Now this video is all about yield farming versus staking, because lots of people have been asking. Now yield farming, basically, think about when you're farming in real life. It's about plowing, it's about trying to get rewards from work. But one is more risky. With real life farming, you have to buy equipment, you have to do a lot of things. Whereas with DeFi, decentralized finance farming, we can see here. So let's have a look at history. Before yield farming, there was staking. So staking came first. And before staking, there was mining, where you have the equipment and you are mining for coins using software. But staking has helped some things move from proof of work, which is what Bitcoin was working on, computers and nodes and mining, to proof of stake, where people that stake their coins together can help to make the system, the network, secure. So in 2020, yield farming became a special hit that thrived along with DeFi. So this is all new and all of its glamorous new features. Since providing liquidity to DEX, decentralized exchanges, normal exchanges like the stock market, but this is decentralized exchange, it's just not regulated. That's what a DEX is multiple times more profitable compared to staking. And we'll see why, because farming has more risk. So we know with investments, the higher the risk, the higher reward. So staking, less risks, farming, more risk, but higher rewards. Crypto investors have naturally completely forgotten about staking. Not really, but that's their opinion, because Ethereum 2.0 is all about moving to proof of staking. Matic and Polygon, that works off of that staking thing, so that they can make things faster. But what is yield farming? Yield farming is such a complicated concept that it manages to challenge even the most experienced cryptocurrency investors. If you want to learn more about how yield farming works and how it synergizes with DeFi, more by visiting the link below. We might click more. Let's see. But what I wanted, so decentralized finance, or DeFi, has recently received tons of attention from investors, both large and small. But what is yield farming? Simply put, yield farming is a way to use your crypto to earn more crypto. Because remember, if you have got crypto, so think about this is all about things working how a bank works. We have our money in our bank, we put it there for the bank. They do whatever they want to do with it, whether they're buying and making investments, and they pay us interest. They pay us for us loaning them their money. This, in short, is the same way staking and yield farming work. In a sense, you are giving a developer or giving a project, you're loaning them your money, and you're trying to get a reward from it, or you're using it to help the system stay secure. And because of that, you're getting a reward because you're helping the economy, the ecosystem of that coin stay strong. So, but usually people think that the key to holding crypto as an investment is just to leave it in cold storage. Yield farming has changed the way of thinking. Because of DeFi, it's now clear that your cryptocurrency should be put to work to generate more value, like we said, with a bank and savings account. That's the essence of yield farming. How can you create more crypto with the digital assets you already have on hand? By lending them out. However, that's where several DeFi platforms and protocols come in. DeFi platforms like Compound, Curve Finance, Aave, Badger, DAO work by letting users deposit cryptocurrency. Now, Compound, ages ago, that was like at $80. This is now like at $600, and DeFi has been booming. SUSHI, booming. But when you deposit to a DeFi protocol liquidity pool as a lender, you will typically earn more of the token you deposited and a reward token, usually the native asset of the platform you are using. So if you lend on Compound, you earn comp. Or if you deposit to a SUSHI pool, you earn SUSHI. If you're already familiar with the concept of staking and earning staking rewards, then you'll be happy to know that yield farming is more or less the same thing. The only substantial difference here is that yield farmers are all tied to providing and borrowing liquidity. Where things get really interesting is when you realize you can deploy complicated yield farming strategies to maximize your returns. Because, for example, some give you back a certain reward say quick tokens, you could then take those and put in another pool and farm even those ones. So you're getting rewards on your rewards as well. So let's see how yield farming works. To explain how yield farming works, it's helpful to use Uniswap, a DeFi exchange protocol example. While commonly referred to as a decentralized exchange, Uniswap is really an automated market maker, AMM. And AMM is just a fancy way of describing an exchange that crowdsources its liquidity. Now, why would anyone want to provide liquidity to Uniswap? The answer is quite simple: to earn incentives, of course. Uniswap incentivizes liquidity providers to deposit into its pools by paying rewards from transactions using those pools. So whereas a centralized exchange like Coinbase makes money by keeping exchange fees for itself as profit, Uniswap and other DeFi protocols pay those fees out to users as rewards. Now that you understand how this works for a decentralized exchange like Uniswap, you also get how yield farming works in general across other DeFi protocols. Let's put this new knowledge to use by thinking about yield farming using compound finance. Compound is not an exchange like Uniswap. Instead, it's a decentralized lending platform for borrowing cryptocurrency assets using crypto as collateral. What Compound and Uniswap have in common is this: both rely on liquidity pools as a source of funds for their respective protocols. Uniswap needs liquidity providers to deposit the assets being exchanged by users, and Compound needs liquidity providers to deposit assets being borrowed by users. Uniswap incentivizes liquidity providers by sharing transaction fees between LPs, while remember LPs are liquidity providers, while Compound incentivizes liquidity providers by paying lenders a floating annual percentage yield rate, APY. And on the subject of APY, we can see here with farming, you can get way higher APYs. You can see this column here where I've got APYs with cake, 85% per year, 1,849, 10700, 10,722, yearly 703. So these are crazy ones, but we'll look at impermanent loss as well, because with farming there's impermanent loss, which is a big risk compared to staking. That's why staking, you can see top staking pools. Where's my staking one? Best staking pools here are way lower. So between from 8% to like 22% is common. Got Avalanche, 1inch, Balancer, BAT, Beyond Finance. So these ones, by so many, but with those ones, in a sense, you are just helping the network to be more secure, and by doing that, they are paying you. But with yield farming, you can see these bigger, and these are the biggest ones here. Top yield farming pools by value locked. So the most money so far is a Bitcoin pool. Then we've got a Binance pool. Then we've got ETH pool, where you put your collateral. And we can see the audits it's had, because it's another thing we'll look at, because these are risky. With new projects has not been audited, because you can lose all your money, and it could be rug pulls, which we'll explain as well. But we were looking at, however, here's where they differ. Lenders and borrowers both earn comp tokens when using Compound. As a Compound lender, you're earning both APY and farming comp tokens for doing nothing but supplying the protocol with your cryptocurrency assets. So you're getting two fees when you are yield farming. So however, here's how they differ. Lenders and borrowers both earn comp tokens when using Compound. As a Compound lender, you'll earn both APY and farming comp tokens for doing nothing but supplying the protocol with your cryptocurrency assets. So we also want to look at what is impermanent loss, because with farming there is impermanent loss, because we see here, if you've provided liquidity to AMM, so remember we're saying that is just like a crowdfunding liquidity place where everyone's getting funding, crowdfunding things like Uniswap. Impermanent loss is important to look. As you probably know, in order to add liquidity to a trading pair Uniswap, you need to deposit an equal value of each token. Because with farming, this is where it's different than staking. Staking, you can have one token, put it in there, and you're helping that network, and they're paying you back most likely that token. That's it. But with farming, you normally have pairs, and that pair you lock into a liquidity pool, and that liquidity pool you'll then put into a farming pool. You can swap that pair, unlock that pair back into the two separate pools, but this is what's interesting because the value of them, because their pair could change. But let's look. Let's say you have $500 worth of ETH and $500 worth of Uni in your wallet, and you want to add liquidity to a Uni ETH pool. Depending on the price of each cryptocurrency, let's say you currently hold 0.83 ETH and 128 Uni. Now, 1 ETH equals 154.21 Uni. But after you deposit your ETH and Uni into the pool, this ratio will change as both cryptocurrencies will change in value and trades take place, because remember, crypto is volatile, so it's not going to stay the same ratio, the same price when you put it in. As a result, there will be more Uni and less ETH, or vice versa, in the pool. So what happens when the exchange rate deviates from the initial rate at which you provided liquidity to the pair? You have impermanent loss. But how does it happen? As the initial exchange rate and the amount of each token in the pool have changed, when you remove your liquidity from the pool, you will have more ETH and less Uni, or less ETH and more Uni. Something like this, 0.60 ETH and 150 Uni. Whereas before, remember, we started with 0.83 ETH and 128 Uni, but the pairs will still stay linked. Now, what happens is that if you just hold your 0.83 ETH and your 128 Uni in your wallet, instead of depositing them into the liquidity pool, you could make more money in US dollars. Because if ETH is doing crazy high and Uni is not doing crazy high, then in a sense, you could have been better off just leaving your ETH separate from your Uni, but you wouldn't have been getting any passive funds from that. So that we're going to look at how to think about what pairs to go in to stop or try to stop impermanent loss. So how to avoid impermanent loss? Providing liquidity to stable coins, because stable coins will be stable, such as USDC and USDT. This might be the best way to get rid of impermanent loss, but this way you can't enjoy the rise in the market as you hold stable coins. Because the next good part with farming is, in the best case scenario, if your pairs are both rising, you have that value of them both rising, as well as the free rewards and farming tokens you are receiving by yield farming. So in a bull market, it might not be a good idea to hold stable coins and provide liquidity to such pair, as you will not be exposed to crazy returns. But in a bear market, you can provide liquidity to a pair like USDC and USDT and earn trading fees while not losing any money in a falling market. 2. Avoiding risky and volatile cryptocurrency pairs. Let's say you want to provide liquidity to the link ETH pair on Uniswap. If you think that link will significantly outperform ETH or vice versa, don't do it, because you will be more exposed to impermanent loss. If both Link and ETH, however, rise or decrease in value relative to each other, then you'll be fine, as the initial exchange rate will not change much. The idea here is not to avoid volatile cryptocurrency, but to consider the future performance of both cryptocurrencies in a pair against each other. 3. Providing liquidity to pools with unevenly weighted cryptocurrencies. If you want to earn fees by providing liquidity to liquidity pools, you don't necessarily need to do it on Uniswap. There are many other AMMs such as Balancer, SUSHI and there's Quickswap now, and I also do Quickswap. Among Uniswap competitors, Balancer is very different than other AMs in that it allows users to create pools with more than 2 tokens, set different weights for each token, and charge a trading fee between 0.001% and 10%. While every pool of Uniswap consists of 2 tokens with equal weights, you can find pools with unevenly weighted tokens such as 75% KR and 25% worth on Balancer. Now, I don't actually do anything on Uniswap. I think actually I've only got YFDI I paired on Uniswap, and then I put that into my YFDI farming pool. So 4, providing liquidity to incentivize pools and participate in liquidity mining programs. With the DeFi explosion, there are now a lot of DeFi apps and decentralized exchanges, and many have issued their own native tokens. All of the popular AMMs have their own token, which are distributed to liquidity providers through liquidity mining programs. Among them, the most popular ones are Uni and SUSHI. In order to minimize your losses as a liquidity provider, you can participate in liquidity mining programs or provide liquidity to incentivize pools. Some projects distribute their tokens to those who provide liquidity to a certain pair on AMMs such as Uniswap and Balancer, which you can check out here. So 5, provide liquidity to Moonswap. 6, not removing liquidity till the exchange rate returns to the initial rate. It's good ways of minimizing your loss. But let's have a look. Here are some of the biggest risks when yield farming. So farming has always been a risky business, no matter whether you plow hard soil to harvest wheat or seek to grow yield on virtual DeFi fields. Yield farmers, just like their real world pairs, should account for many contingencies, natural and human-made disasters that can ruin their yields and drain them completely. So we know yield farms are a new way of making money from thin air, but smart contract risk. Bugs are everywhere. Smart contracts are often touted as a secure and reliable way to process deals and transactions, because all the things you do on decentralized exchanges and crypto is with smart contracts. This technology helps to fight corruption and avoid human errors, as everything is done automatically in compliance with the conditions embedded in the contract. However, like any computer code, smart contracts can have bugs. Developers usually try to do their best to make sure that their project works as intended. Still, they sometimes overlook small errors that hackers may exploit to drain the money from the project. In this case, users who supplied money to the protocol will lose their capital. Cyber criminals use loopholes to outsmart algorithms and steal money. This threat is real, as DeFi protocols have lost billions of dollars to hack attacks. How to protect yourself from a smart contract? Make sure that the smart contract is audited. Audits do not guarantee that the code is entirely free from error, but they significantly reduce the risk. Then open the report and read through it to understand how auditors evaluated it and how many bugs they found. Impermanent loss risk, things you would never expect. Many popular projects like Uniswap or similar automated market makers require people to supply their funds into liquidity pools to earn lucrative rewards and collect trading fees paired by the centralized exchange users. This is a good source of passive income that does not depend on market sentiments. However, during sharp market moves, users can actually lose all their money. This risk, known as imperative loss, is not intuitive, but the liquidity provider should make sure that they understand it. The thing is that by participating in the liquidity pools, users cannot benefit from a price movement and actually can bear losses if the market value of the asset goes down. The problem comes from the fact that AMMs do not update their prices automatically in line with the market movements. This peculiarity creates arbitrage opportunities and possesses significant risks to liquidity providers. For example, when a token price drops by 50% on centralized exchanges, the change is not reflected immediately on the decentralized platforms. As a result, arbitrage traders can use the narrow time gap to sell their ETH on the DeFi platform for an overcharged price. The difference is eventually covered by liquidity providers who incur losses when the price drops and cannot benefit when it goes up, as their capital is locked in the pool. Now, how to minimize impermanent loss, we looked at a bit, but liquidity risk, how to mitigate the liquidity risk. To reduce your risk of liquidation, is wise to use less volatile assets and keep an eye on the market. So we looked at that as well. So we've seen a lot of the risk, but best case scenario, you get pairs that have good utility, because remember, with any crypto, you want to be looking at what is their utility. Like Quickswap and Matic, aka Polygon, have been doing nice for me because it's been rising and rising and rising them by themselves, and then I'm farming. You can see I'm getting this per day and it's just been rising. And what's so good about Quickswap? So Quickswap is a fork of the originator of automated market makers and now rapidly. So one thing about Quickswap is because they use Uniswap, it's a fork of Uniswap, and Uniswap's been audited and it's not been hacked since it's come, so we can trust it. And they've used, because the thing about crypto, it's open source, so you can use you can just copy someone's developing codes and things like that. So Quickswap is a fork of the same one of Uniswap, and we opted for the Magical Dragon. It's much faster than kind of currently only available in the land far, far away, blah, blah, blah. And many travelers, where are we? So it was all the way down here, I believe. As Quickswap is a fork of Uniswap without a single line of code being changed, just with a slight cosmetic makeover, powered by the Matic network for more fast and cheaper transactions, because they're layer 2. You should really check out Matic, my other video about explaining layer 2, because this is what makes cheap. Ethereum's gas fees are the biggest problem. So even when you're using Uniswap, that requires Ethereum's gas fees, whereas all of this doesn't require Ethereum. The only part you need Ethereum is to bridge your Ethereum from the Ethereum blockchain into the Matic. After that, you can do everything real cheap. So, and it hasn't been hacked to date, Uniswap. So the risks seem reasonable regarding the smart contract itself. Permanent loss can occur when the price fluctuates occur in the asset pool you're providing liquidity to. However, profits gained from fees and yield farming can sometimes counter this, allowing LPs to still acquire net positive depending on timing, market conditions, other variables. Now, rug pulls happen when a coin gets hyped up and a whale suddenly pulls out of a pool after the price has been pumped, often artificially or through hype manipulation. Be vigilant against such games and certainly don't initiate them. Take caution to thoroughly do your own research before yield farming. Consider any risk involved and your own risk tolerance, and be prepared to accept a loss in some situations. You might consider yield farming with a relatively low percentage of your crypto portfolio reserved for higher risk investments. Some platforms in the DeFi space are considered degenerate gambling by some, labeling their patrons as degens. But with the help of a good community that understands the potential of Quickswap, good ideas and active implementation, there's a possibility to build it out into a long-term project that meets a real need. Now, there's loads of questions here that people want to get answered, so you can check it out. How can I farm? How can I claim my crypt? How can I farm? So I've actually got a video on Quickswap and how to farm. I've got one on PancakeSwap that I use a pair, but so in short, yield farming needs pairs. Where staking, where were we? We look at staking. So this is how to start yield farming. If we go back to looking at staking, so staking is a mechanism derived from proof of stake consensus model. Because remember, Bitcoin is proof of work where you used computers. The more computers, they were all linked to. So all the transactions you did was on a block, for example, a ledger, an account, and the more you do, all the computers have to agree to add something to that block. And then there's the algorithms and the maths involved in that. So it's hard to just lie and change the books and say, oh, I sent this on that day, when there's no other record on it in the whole system and all the other computers. That's why computers have to. So the one that will be agreed is the one that has the longest blockchain. So whichever computer has the longest account, those are the ones that will be believed. And that system has helped it stay secure. But it requires a lot of computer power, electricity has to stay on, things like that. So that is a game mining for the rich and people that have enough money to keep many computers and keep them on running. Whereas staking is more of a fair system that anyone can have a certain amount of coins and earn the same amount. It's not requiring the money to have all computers. So rather than spending electricity and hardware power to solve complex mathematical problems and confirm transactions, stakers lock up their assets to act as nodes and confirm blocks. For example, the new Ethereum 2.0 network enforces a strict rule where users must lock up to 32 Ether in order to apply for a node role. Once locked up, the assets will serve as a stake that forces the user to act in good faith when confirming transactions, because this is the next one. They could lose. Why it helps, because you could lose part of your stake if you're doing things wrong. So traditionally, stakers are users who set up a node on their own and join any proof of stake network to support them as a node validator. However, it's not always the case. Centralized and decentralized exchanges alike, or any platform where assets can be stored for any reason, offer their users to stake their assets without having to deal with the technicalities of setting up a node. The exchange in question will handle the validating part of the process on its own, while the staker's only job is to provide the asset. So this is a bit like I delegate with Graph. In a sense, I'm lending my coins to an official staker indexer, and they're doing all the work. But it's the same kind of thing when you're staking on certain platforms. You're giving, in a sense, you're lending that developer, that platform, you're staking, and they're doing all the work to be a node and keep the place safe. This way, the user can stake multiple assets from just one place. Moreover, he will not have to suffer the effect of slashing, because slashing is when, if a real staker is doing bad things, validating bad things on the network, the stake that they've locked can be slashed. But you lending them your stake, you're not down for any slashing from if they do bad things. So, to summarize, the main goal of stake is not to provide liquidity to a platform, but to secure a blockchain network by improving its safety. The more users stake, the more decentralized the blockchain is, and hence it is harder to attack. Because if there's more nodes, then there's more people controlling the system instead of less people controlling the system, and then they can be attacked. If the power in numbers, basically, and it's more decentralized where no one is controlling it, no one can't try and do anything because there's only like 10 nodes, 10 auditors, 10 people controlling the system. When there's hundreds and even thousands, then it's a proper decentralized network. The only bad aspect is that staking does not offer such a good deal compared to yield farming. APY rates pay out on a yearly basis, and they range between 5% to 15%. On the other hand, yield rates and LPs can go higher than 100% in some cases. So yield farming might be most profitable option for passive investments, but it's also higher risks. Ethereum's gas fees can disseminate the API rates that you have just gained, and if markets turn violently bearish or bullish, the rated profitability will drastically drop due to permanent loss. Security-wise, yield farming on newer projects might result in a complete loss, as developers tend to create so-called rug pull projects after listing a new token and allowing users to deposit funds into liquidity pools. The project's creators will shut down the project and disappear with the funds. Even if the developer acts in good faith and works on a serious project, he might end up unintentionally creating a hole in the smart contract code that makes it possible for a hacker to exploit it. This is common in projects that feature both flash loans and yield farming. Once an LP is drained, the assets are forever gone, and there's no central entity that can return them. When it comes to staking, there are two main disadvantages: low APY rates and time locks. Validating transactions on proof of stake based blockchain networks does not reap the same rewards as yield farming. As previously mentioned, yields range from 5% to 15% and do not go higher than that. Although now this is an older article, there is some going higher. But even with some of these losses, now if you were to go in a good project that has enough money, they would actually compensate you, especially if it's not a rug pull and they have enough funds saved in the other pools and certain stuff. There is people that have been compensated, and the last time things have been hacked, like rug pools was very more common at the beginning in 2020 on Uniswap and things like that. Rug pools now on more big projects like Swap and other things I've not commonly heard of again. So yield farming is becoming more secure because the DeFi revolution is becoming more secure as well, but there are still risks if you're just going in things because you see a crazy APY, but you're not thinking about any of the other things of the pairs, how the pairs will do, and has it been audited. Because the main risk with all this, both yield farming and staking, is your money is no longer in your cold storage, in your own wallet or in your own account. You have put it somewhere, like in a bank. Just like your money could be in your hand, but you've put it into a bank. Now, if the bank was to liquidate or anything happens to the bank, luckily, like, you've got the FCA and the FC, Financial Conduct Service Compensation, or something. What, I can't remember the acronym, but they would pay out 85,000 to each person. Now with DeFi and decentralized, it's all decentralized. There's no official government party that would accept any losses and pay you back anything. But there's still auditors. There's still things. There's still technically things that can happen if it's a good company, if it's a good utility, and they have enough money themselves to protect certain things. But that's where the risk is with all of these. But I have to say, so far, things like Quickswap with, where was that? Quickswap with Polygon, that has been doing very nicely. Pancake Swap, because if we look, pancakes are other way I farm is cake paired with BNB, and we can see cake has been doing new all-time highs. Pancakes Quickswap and Quickswap's been doing new all-time highs. We can see Quickswap is just rising in rankings. So in the last 7 days, it's done a 7x, 787%. It's all-time high 13 hours ago. And I've got this one paired with Polygon. So you can check out my other videos on how to stake certain pairs. So I've got the pancake one. And if there's any questions, you can put them down below. But in short, farming requires pairs. There's more risk on how the pairs individually do. That can give you more impermanent loss. But actually, the one farming that has no impermanent loss, I believe, is cake. There's one, where's cake? Because cake doesn't require a pair. So there is a pool. Cake, no impermanent loss. Impermanent, didn't spell it right, but we'll see. Because you're not pairing it, there's no impermanent loss. So impermanent loss is not a concern with cake staking, which is on pancake. So, but still, the biggest challenge liquidity miners face is impermanent loss. Staking cake takes away this one risk. Permanent loss possesses a great threat to the high expectations of automated market making. If the expectations can be met, we will see even further decentralization of the liquidity provision so that any user with latent capital can safely become a passive market maker. But when you stake cake as an individual asset in any of the eligible pools on PancakeSwap Finance, there's no concern about permanent loss. You receive your daily yield according to the advertised APY. So what actually is? So we looked a bit at this already, but let's look. Let's remember impermanent loss. As the name implies, permanent loss is a temporary loss that liquidity farmers encounter due to divergence in the price of staked assets. It's commonly described as the difference between the returns available simply holding an asset versus those earned when staking such asset in the liquidity pair. Impermanent loss is possible when a user stakes two assets in a certain ratio, usually 50-50. The temporary loss results when one of the staked assets is very volatile in relation to the other. It is termed temporary loss or impermanent loss because once the price of the assets return to the original price during staking, the loss disappears. For a better understanding, let's use BSD BNB pool. So price $1, quantity $500, BNB $40, quantity 12.5, $500. In the above setup, the starting value of the quantity of both assets is the same. Now let's assume the price of BNB goes up on the external market at Binance to $45. Arbitrage traders see an opportunity to make a quick profit and buy up all available BNB at the $40 price on PancakeSwap. The rule for supply and liquidity is that the two supplied assets must maintain the correct ratio of tokens, in this case 50-50 in the pool. As arbitrators buy more BNB from the pool, price of BNB continues to climb. By the time the price of BNB catches up with the external market, we supplied assets will react to the divergence in the price of BNB. BNB price will be at $45 when there are 559.075 BUSD and 11.11 BNB in the pool. Arbitrageurs would buy 1.39 BNB in order to achieve equilibrium equilibrium between PancakeSwap and Binance BNB's prices, costing 59.075 BUSD and achieving an average price of 42.5 BUSD per BNB. These market movements and the rules of maintaining a 50-50 ratio in the pool lead to a loss of around $3. You can compare in the table below how much you would have earned if you had simply held 500 BUSD and 12.5 BNB outside of the liquidity pool. So we can see before 500 plus 12.5 times 40, we had a total of $1,000. After, we now have a total of this, and if we just hodled and kept it without putting in the pool, we would have had more in this example. But in the example where they both go up, then it is really good thing. But we could talk about this forever and ever, but it's all about this, not financial advice. It's for you to do your due diligence and to see what is your risk tolerance.